So Apple just wrapped up their newest event for September of 2021. We're not sure if this is their last event of this year. There could be an October event where they announce new MacBooks, new AirPods, so we'll have to wait and see. But there are 5 major things that they announced at this event, so let's go ahead and break it down if you don't want to watch the full thing. Okay, before we get into that, you might be a little confused as to why the camera quality looks a little different. I'm actually recording on the Canon Rebel SL3. This isn't my new camera. I only have this for a couple days. I'm only using it to record 2 videos. So just thought I'd, use it for this and another Apple video that'll be coming out next week. So yeah, but for now, let's go and talk about these new products. All right, so as far as what Apple announced at this event, we got 2 new iPads, 1 new Apple Watch, and 4 new iPhones. Now, yeah, we got 4 new iPhones last year, so I shouldn't be that surprised. But, let's just go ahead and talk about them. All right, so let's start by talking about these iPads. So, first iPad they announced is a pretty routine announcement at this point, but it is the new iPad, the new iPad 9. So, yeah. New is definitely a little bit of a stretch because this is basically the iPad 5, aka basically the same thing, the same damn thing as the original iPad Air. But who gives a shit, honestly. All right, so there's really only 3 noteworthy things with this new iPad 9. So the first thing that is new is the performance. This new iPad 9 now has the A13 Bionic chip, which is up from the A12 of last year, and it's the same chip that's in the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro. And this new iPad 9 also now gets a storage upgrade. So previously, all the way up until the iPad 8 from last year, the base model iPad, like the base model, only had 32 gigs of storage, which was kind of inexcusable for 2020 going into 2021. But thankfully, now this new iPad Air now has 64 gigs of storage, which is great. And you can now upgrade it to 256, whereas previously the only upgrade was up to 128 gigs. And the last major upgrade this year is the new front-facing camera. So I believe the old front-facing camera was from the iPhone 7. It was that 7-megapixel camera. But now this new iPad 9 gets the new 12-megapixel camera from the iPad Pro, which means that it also has the new auto centering feature in FaceTime called Center Stage. So this actually should help, so you don't have to move it around to keep it centered on your face. You have that optical tracking. Well, actually, I think it's like more of a digital tracking, but it's pretty nice to have. So let's go and break down the pricing. So this new iPad 9 comes in 2 colors, silver and space gray, and it starts at 64 gigs of storage for $330. And if you want to upgrade to cellular on that model, you'll be looking at about $460. And you can also upgrade to 256 gigs for about $480. And if you want to upgrade to cellular on that model, you're looking at about $610. The new iPad 9 is available for pre-order now and will be available in stores on September 24th. Maybe I should have started here because this set's looking pretty nice right here. All right, now for the iPad that will actually make headlines, we have the all-new iPad Mini 6. So the new iPad Mini 6 gets basically all the upgrades we've been asking for years. The last iPad Mini update was in early 2019, and it was kind of an upgrade. It really was only a speed upgrade from the previous iPad Mini 4, which came out in 2015, mind you, so it took them 4 years to upgrade to that one. But this new iPad Mini is a serious upgrade. So in some ways, this new iPad Mini is actually ahead of the current iPad Air 4, and hopefully Apple will update the Air 4 to the Air 5 at some point later this year or early next year, but we'll have to see. I don't know. So the most noticeable upgrade with this new iPad Mini 6 is that it finally loses the big ass bezels and the home button and goes to a full screen design. So it is basically at this point a mini iPad Air. The screen now grows from a 7.9-inch display, which we've had since the original iPad mini, to a 8.3-inch display, and it is now using the Liquid Retina technology. This new iPad mini also gets the all-new A15 Bionic chip, which is actually currently ahead of the iPad Air's A14 Bionic chip, which is the same chip that's in the iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Pro. But maybe the iPad, like I said, maybe the iPad Air 5 will come out later this year or early next year, but we'll just have to see. Now, it's still not quite up there with the M1 that's in the iPad Pro, but that thing is kind of in a league of its own, if we're being honest. So, yeah. Of course, since this iPad mini now has the new design, it now ditches Lightning for the USB-C connector, which is awesome. So that means at this point, the iPad 9 is the only iPad left that still has Lightning. All other iPads at this point had USB-C, which is great. So, I mean, all I'm saying is maybe iPad 10 can get rid of that Lightning connector in the iPad for good. Apple? You hear me? Just saying. This new iPad mini also now gets 5G support, which the iPad Air 4 also doesn't have. It's stuck at 4G for now. And you can finally use the iPad mini with the not stupid edition of the Apple Pencil. Now, of course, since this iPad mini is so small, you don't have any Smart Keyboard or Magic Keyboard support because it just isn't the size that can fit something like that. But honestly, that's okay. You can still connect it to other Bluetooth keyboards that you can buy from other stores. And honestly, I don't see why you would need to connect an iPad that small to a keyboard anyways. I feel like it would just work on the display just fine. And honestly, I wouldn't even think about buying a Magic Keyboard for this thing because Apple would probably end up charging like $250 for it anyways. So yeah, I mean, that's like half of the iPad right there. Now, unlike the iPad Pro, this iPad also does not get Face ID. It takes that design cue from the Air and puts the Touch ID sensor up in the power button, which actually is pretty nice. You know, it's nice to have that fingerprint scanner, especially in a world with all these masks. And this new iPad mini also now gets that 12 megapixel camera with center stage. So really, we're just waiting on the iPad Air at this point to get that. So, I mean, it's pretty likely that the iPad Air 5 will have that 12 megapixel camera with center stage. So this new iPad mini comes in 4 colors. It comes in space gray, pink, purple, and starlight. And the starlight is kind of like, it looks to me like a cross between like a gold and a silver. So not quite on that old, you know, iPhone 7 like gold. So but not quite like the rose gold. So it's closer to silver, if we're being honest. But hey, Starlight is actually kind of a decent name. So this new iPad mini starts at 64 gigs of storage for $500, which is all right. It's a little, I think it might be a little too much. I think $450 would have been a sweet spot for this, especially considering that the iPad Air is only $100 more. But honestly, this does have some pretty big advantages over the iPad Air, if we're being honest. And then from that, you can upgrade to cellular for $650. You can also upgrade to 256 for that same price, and you can upgrade to cellular on the 256 gig model for $800. This new iPad mini is now available for pre-order and will be available in stores on September 24th. All right, let's head upstairs and let's go talk about these new Apple Watches, or this one new Apple Watch. Okay, actually, let's not do that because I tried to record that clip last night and the mic kept picking up something that was uncontrollably buzzing. So let's just talk about the new Apple Watch down here. So let's talk about the Apple Watch Series 7. So this is the biggest update we've seen to the Apple Watch since 2018 when the new design with the Series 4 rolled out. Now, it's definitely not the update we were expecting. We were all expecting, you know, a square design with, basically just a square design with more colors. But instead, we kept the same rounded design. But, I mean, hey, it's still a nice update. So the biggest change to this new Apple Watch is the new display. So it now actually has only 1.7 millimeter borders, which is really thin, to the point where it actually kind of gives it like a flowing edge display, sort of how like Samsung used to do with their Edge phones. This new Apple Watch also comes in 5 new aluminum colors, which is green, blue, product red, midnight, and starlight. Now just for a visual of this new screen, here's the Series 7 right here, and then I'm going to put that next to the Series 6, and then put that next to the Series 3. If you take a look at the Series 7 versus the Series 3, you can see that it is a pretty big jump. Now if you take a look at it next to the Series 6, it doesn't look like such a huge jump, but if you look at the Series 6 really close, then you can definitely see a difference. You can also now use an actual keyboard on the Apple Watch instead of just using the scribble or dictation methods, which is kind of an interesting feature. I wasn't expecting that, but hey. Apple says this new Apple Watch also has more durable glass, and this is also the first Apple Watch to be dust resistant. So previously, all the Apple Watches were only water resistant. With the Series 2 back in 2016, they added WR50 swim resistance, but with this new Apple Watch, you now have IP6X dust resistance. Now, one of my favorite features to this new Apple Watch is that it finally has faster charging. So Apple says that with the new USB-C to Apple Watch cable, that this will charge 33% faster than the Series 6. That's pretty impressive. So Apple says the price of this Apple Watch will start around $400. I'm not sure if that's for the cellular model or if that's just for the GPS model, but this Apple Watch is actually under a pretty massive delay, so it won't be coming out until later this year, likely due to the global chip shortage. However, Apple is quoting that it'll be coming this fall. All right, now let's go talk about the new iPhones. All right, so now let's talk about these 4 new iPhones. So let's get started with the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 13 mini. So obviously, the first thing that people are going to notice with these 2 new phones is the 2 design differences. So all 4 of the iPhones this year have a 20% smaller notch compared to the 12 series, which doesn't really sound all that significant, but I guess an improvement is an improvement. So, I mean, I guess it's especially an improvement since if you look at something like the 12 mini, that took up almost the entire top of the display. So it pretty much is an improvement. And the other difference on the 13 and 13 mini is that the back camera lenses are now diagonal from one another. And the other difference with the 13 and 13 mini is that the back camera lenses are now diagonal from one another. Now, that's cool that this new camera system now has the sensor shift, which was only in the 12 Pro Max last year. But my God, is it ugly. Like, I did not think they could make it any uglier than the 11 and 12 Pro, but Jesus Christ, that shit is ugly. As far as other changes to these new iPhones go, we now have the new A15 Bionic chip, which Apple says is about 2 years ahead of the competition, but of course they hype this thing up like crazy, so we'll have to see how true that really is. One of the biggest improvements to these new phones is the battery. So Apple says that the iPhone 13 mini now has 1.5 more hours of battery life compared to the 12 mini, and the iPhone 13 has 2.5 more hours of battery life compared to the 12. Now, that's not really a good way to measure batteries, but we did actually just get the battery sizes in today. So the iPhone 13 mini has So the iPhone 13 mini has a 2,425 milliamp hour battery, which is up from, I believe, the 2,226 milliamp hour battery that was in the 12 mini, and the iPhone 13 has a 3,240 milliamp hour battery, which I believe is up from the 2,815 milliamp hour battery that was in the 12 and 12 Pro. And also, for the Pro phones, the iPhone 13 Pro has a 3,125 milliamp hour battery compared to, again, the 2,815 milliamp hour battery that was in the 12 Pro. And the iPhone 13 Pro Max has a 4,373 milliamp hour battery, which is the biggest battery that's ever been in an iPhone. So the reigning champ in terms of iPhone batteries is the 11 Pro Max, which had a 3,969 milliamp hour battery. So we'll have to see how that actually works out, especially now that these do, wait, we gotta save that for later. Now, some of the biggest changes to these new iPhones now is the cameras. So one of the biggest new features is the new cinematic mode. Now, this is on all 4 of the iPhones. The Pro models do get a bit of an upgrade compared to the regular models, but these new iPhones now have what Apple is calling cinematic mode, which also has a feature that a lot of pros will like called rack focus. So just to kind of explain here, I'm going to zoom in on this camera here, and you can see that I'm out of focus right now, but if I twist the focus dial here, you can see that I just rack focused and now the background is blurry. And if I try that again, well, no, the background's still blurry. Okay, this isn't a very good example. I'm just bad at this. Now, if I'm being honest, it's kind of surprising that Apple actually didn't limit this cinematic mode to the Pro phones only. So I'm not complaining. I think that's a really good thing to have on all 4 of these iPhones. The Pro models, like I said, do get a few more features that the 13 and 13 mini don't have, but we'll talk about those in just a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and break down pricing of the 13 mini and the 13 because it's confusing to say the least. So all iPhones this year, and not just the Pro phones, start at 128 gigs of storage, which is great. We've been waiting for this for so long. So the 13 and 13 mini come in 5 colors: pink, blue, midnight, starlight, and product red. And the 13 mini starts at 128 gigs of storage for $700. That's not that bad, but you can upgrade to 256 for $800, which it doesn't have the $50 jump that the 10R and the 11 had, and I'm not sure if the 12 mini and 12 have that as well. And you can also upgrade to the 512 gig for $1,000. Now, the fact that the smallest iPhone out of this new line of iPhones has a $1,000 model seems a little strange to me. I don't know how to really feel about that, but... And then for the 13, which starts at 128 gigs of storage for $800, you can upgrade to 256 for $900, and 512 gigs for $1,100. Now, wait a minute, hold up. $1,100 for a non-Pro iPhone? Okay, all right, good luck with that one. All right, so now let's talk about the 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max. iPhone 13 Pro Max. Okay, how much longer are they going to do this? So of course the smaller notch is still present here. Now, if I'm being honest, the larger notch actually didn't look all that bad on the 12 Pro Max because it had such a big display, but of course it is still nice to see that extra screen area. The biggest feature on the 13 Pro and the Pro Max that is probably going to make the most headlines out of any feature in any iPhone this year is that the Pro and Pro Max finally have 120 Hertz displays. We have been waiting for this for so fucking long, and like so many Android devices have had it for a long time, and now Apple is bringing it to the Pro phones, which is great. Now, hopefully next year with the 14, they will bring that to all of the models, but this is a great start. Although we still have no always on display. We are still waiting for that. They had the LTPO technology, so I do not understand why they can't do that. Of course, the 13 Pro and Pro Max get all the same camera upgrades as the 13 and 13 mini, with one big additional feature, and that is that the 13 Pro and Pro Max now get macro mode. So this would actually enhance shots even more than cinematic mode by really being able to kind of bring something that you really want to in serious focus. It's gonna look great. Overall, these cameras get a pretty massive upgrade. So the ultra wide now has a larger aperture to let in more light, which actually was kind of a big weakness of both the ultra wide on the 11 and the 12. So it's nice to see that big improvement here. The telephoto camera now has a 3 times optical zoom range, and I think Apple actually said you can zoom up to 6 times without losing too much focus. And that main camera just keeps on getting better and better. And on top of that, for you real pros out there, the new iPhone 13 Pro and the iPhone 13 Pro Max can now shoot in ProRes. Now, you do have to have at least the 256 gig model. It's not available on the 120 gig model, or at least I think like 30 FPS isn't available on the 120 gig model. So maybe worth it to upgrade to that 256 at least, but I don't know. Now, Apple says this ProRes feature won't be available until closer to the end of the year, but I mean, hey, we have it on track, so that's pretty good. All right, and once again, these prices are pretty confusing, so let's go ahead and break them down. So the 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max come in 4 colors. We have Sierra Blue, Silver, Gold, and Graphite. And the Sierra Blue is kind of more of a lighter blue compared to the Pacific Blue of last year. So, I mean, that's pretty nice. So the 13 Pro starts at 128 gigs of storage for $1,000. You can upgrade to 256 for $1,100, 512 for $1,300, and the new 1 terabyte option, which sounds really nice, but it'll cost you $1,500, and that is not even for the Pro Max. So the Pro Max starts at 128 for $1,100. You can jump up to 256 for $1,200, 512 for $1,400, and the 1 terabyte will cost you $1,600. That's a lot of money. So I don't know really how many of those 1 terabyte models are going to sell, but you know, it's nice to have that option. And finally, let's break down the iPhone lineup for this year, because it's definitely gotten a little confusing. So as a surprise to no one, the iPhone XR is now gone from Apple's lineup. You can still buy it in some participating carrier stores and in other big box stores like Best Buy and Walmart, but Apple will no longer be selling that directly. And of course, as kind of tradition with, you know, year over year for these past like 4 years now, the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max aren't being sold by Apple anymore. Of course, you can still buy those in carrier stores. They're going to be around for quite a while, but Apple, again, will no longer be selling that directly. So the lineup this year is actually pretty strong. So it starts at the iPhone SE2, which starts at $400. You can upgrade to the iPhone 11 for $500. The iPhone 12 mini, which, wow, they're keeping the 12 mini? Like, what? That starts at $600. You can upgrade to the 12 for $700, which actually sounds like kind of a lot, but... And then you can also go up to the 13 mini, and that will also cost you $700. So it might be worth it to go from that 12 to the 13 mini, unless you do need that extra battery life. The iPhone 13 for $800, the iPhone 13 Pro for $1,000, and the iPhone 13 Pro Max for $1,100. So that's all that Apple dropped this year.